G'day guys, this is Nav here, founder of Infinity Cricket. Welcome to our first Cricket World Cup show. And tonight we're joined by special guests, Nuwan Ranasinghe. He loves his cricket, super passionate, and he also writes for The Raw and has been doing so for the last couple of months. Extremely insightful articles as well. He's based in Melbourne. And we're also joined by Ashwin Kumar, extraordinaire, who's featured in multiple Infinity Cricket events, formerly or better known for his off-field prowesses, loitering around the ground and looking busy, whilst also attempting to score, but will like to be known as someone that can actually play cricket to some degree of standard. He's joining us from Bangalore, so thanks, Ashwin, someone again that thinks quite deeply about the game. Today we're talking about the Cricket World Cup, involving 10 teams and played in England, obviously, at the moment, finishing up on the 14th of July and having 48 matches. It's great that we're having this show now because, the World Cup has heated up in the last 48 to 72 hours. We've seen some really big matches being played and perhaps some upsets, depending on which side you follow. We're here to discuss all of that and also give you a glimpse of what to expect in the week coming up. So without further ado, I'd like to start off with the news from last night, where tournament favourites and host nations England went down to a rampant Pakistani side. Now, we've always talked about this 1992 World Cup champions as a side that is absolutely unpredictable. On their day, they can win World Cups, and off their day, they can be knocked out in the first round. We didn't know what team is going to show up for the game last night, having lost their opening encounter to the West Indies. And in fact, they got thrashed, to be honest. They've gone into that game having lost 11 matches in a row, and many pundits, including ourselves in this panel, thought Pakistan didn't stand much of a chance, but we were all very surprised. So I'd like to start off first by going to Ashwin, who saw this game very closely. We were discussing offline yesterday. I had a firm belief that Pakistan were going to win this, but Ashwin, your thoughts on last night's performances?
I just read a tweet this morning, and it took me back to about 2017 in the Champions Trophy final. And Nasser Hussain put it aptly. This is Pakistan cricket for you. One moment they're down, the next moment they're up. And that is how they've played so far. They got absolutely battered on a good wicket in Trent Bridge by West Indies. They were bounced out. But hey, they bounced back and beat England. So Pakistan living up to their consistently inconsistent tag.
Nuwan, your thoughts from the game?
Yeah, look, I mean, this is the beauty of Pakistan cricket, isn't it? They were bundled up for 105 against the Windies in their opening game, and then now they've come back and defeated England. So this is the beauty of Pakistan cricket. It's what keeps the World Cup exciting. Look, I think Pakistan will be confident from this, knowing that they've been the tournament favourites. But this is what makes World Cup cricket and cricket in general quite good. And the really interesting thing about the game was that England had 2 centurions and they still lost. I thought that was very bizarre. It actually happened a couple of months ago. There was an ODI between Australia and Pakistan. Pakistan had, I think it was Babar Azam and Abid Ali scored twin centuries, and they still lost to the Aussies. So it's fantastic. I think it's great for cricket, and bring on the next couple of games. Fantastic game.
Just on another note, when Pakistan lost to West Indies, I read a tweet from Andrew Balbirnie's brother, the Irish captain. I mean, not the captain, but yeah, he's one of the key batsmen. But and the tweet read something like this, and he said that my brother has scored more runs against West Indies than the entire Pakistan team, and competitive my ass. And I wonder what he has to say when after Pakistan has beaten England, though. But yes, has the World Cup actually been competitive up until now? I would say no. There have been more one-sided games than really close contests, but
Mm.
does that beat the 10-team purpose? And that's another question to ponder over.
Mhm.
Yeah, look, I mean, some very interesting elements for me from yesterday's match. I think the first one was the fact that, Pakistan have always traditionally been known for their bowling prowess, right?
Mm.
But they decided that they were obviously going to be batting yesterday. And for them to come up in a World Cup match, high pressure environment, and to score just shy of 350, right? So they ended up with 348 runs on the back of not one or two good performances, but consistent performances in the middle order. We all know Babar Azam and the type of player that he is looks very pleasing to the eye, and he scored 63 off 66 deliveries last night. But I was most impressed by Mohammad Hafiz. Now he's a guy, 39 years of age, right? Is probably in the twilight hours of his career, and
Hours.
this is a big moment for him, right? It's a make or break situation. He's walked in at number 4, and to be honest, he's walked in at 2 for 111. So the pressure was not really on him, but he had a very, very pivotal role to play in basically ensuring that the rest of the order is batting around him.
Yep.
He ended up with 84 of 62 deliveries, right? At a strike rate of 135. And that, to be honest, for me, was a key moment in the lineup. Now, Sarfraz did his part, and he's not the most eye-catching or attractive player, but he scored 55, and I think no one expected Pakistan to score 348 against England. Now, we were talking offline, Ashwin and I said that anything over 330 in a World Cup match is going to be game on. And I said it's going to be game on because if you actually have a look at the recent past, sure, they've lost 11 matches in a row. Sure, they lost 4-0 against England in the recent series. Sure, they lost 5-0 against Australia and got whitewashed in the Middle East, right? But there were a few elements missing. Wahab Riaz, right? And that's what I love about Pakistan cricket. Got his last ODI wicket in 2017.
Yeah.
Right? Wasn't even considered to be a starter in this squad, right? He was a last-minute pick. Got picked for this World Cup along with Mohammad Amir because Inzamam ul Haq had a gut feeling and decided that somehow they needed a little bit more experience. So he turns to people north of 30 and Mohammad Amir that, is struggling to pick up wickets in the last couple of years in ODIs and says that these are the two that he thinks are going to do the job. So they've come in, right? Yeah. On the eve of the game, Shoaib Akhtar, a guy that's known for, as much entertainment on the field as his, colorful speeches off the field, comes out with it, and he puts the images of 4 iconic players: Imran Khan, Wasim Akram, himself, he had to be there, and Abdul Razak. And he said that if this is not going to fire you up, then what is? And it was to that effect.
Yeah.
And I found that yesterday. It was a pivotal moment when Mohammad Amir and Wahab Riaz took on the responsibility of containing what would have been a score of 349 for England to win. So talking about the Pakistani bowling, and it'd be good to get your views on that. This was an English side that were up against the chase. Keep in mind, this was the highest chase that England would have had to have done. High successful World Cup.
This is actually it is the highest World Cup chase
if they won
in history. Yeah.
Right, but the key fact is they actually haven't lost in a chase in home conditions for the last couple of years, right? And in the chase last night, Joe Root scored 107, and Joss Buttler, Ash, we were talking about him. He did his part, 103 off 76. So, what did Pakistan do differently that made them get the win yesterday? Another interesting point, we spoke about Shadab Khan in an earlier conversation. Guys, this is a bowler that's never opened the attack in ODIs ever before.
Yeah.
Right? And Sarfraz did a Mahendra Singh Dhoni and threw him in the deep end. Guys, so starting off with Nuwan first. What was different about Pakistan's bowling last night compared to their first game where they got trounced by the West Indies?
I think it was just there was a much more disciplined sort of vibe about the Pakistan bowling, and they didn't seem sort of flustered by getting like hit around and things like that. If you look at those last two overs, I think when England were looking to chase, they needed 25 off that last over, so it was always going to be a steep ask. But if you look at the groundwork before that, there were wickets consistently at the death. Okay, so in the 48th over, Wahab Riaz got 2 wickets. He was on a hat trick actually. And then Muhammad Amir got another wicket as well. So that literally derailed the momentum. England didn't play that badly, to be honest. They played really well. Like 330 is a fantastic score, but it was in that crunch situation Pakistan delivered. That's the way I see it. It was literally the 48th over, the last two balls. That's what got them pumped up, and that can be the difference. I think they held their nerve despite getting hit around. If you look at that 48th, if you analyze that 48th over, Warwick's hit a 6 off the third ball. Then they got a single. Then Wahab Riaz gets 2 wickets. So it's that sort of not getting flustered, keeping your cool. I think that's what did it for them.
Yeah, absolutely. And Ash, I mean, you have got your own views about how important experience is in a World Cup, right? They've obviously gone with someone like Shoaib Malik, who has been a reluctant bowler, but when it comes to his batting, he's been in woeful form. He averages 14 in UK batting. But it was actually his bowling, and he got a wicket last night that changed the complexion of the game. So what was it with the experience of some of these senior guys stepping up to the mark yesterday against a team that obviously is coming into this tournament as a favourites?
Before answering that, going back to your earlier question of what did they do different, the Pakistan bowling, I think Sarfraz didn't do an MS Dhoni, but he did a Faf du Plessis.
Yeah.
Imran Tahir set the template, and Shadab Khan just followed it. And I won't be surprised if people like India start off with the Yuzvendra Chahal against Roy and Bairstow. Just, you've seen that they're susceptible to wrist spin, and especially with the new ball. What they did different, I think the big man Inzamam ul Haq, he trusted his big gut, and he has, he's got it right. I think what Pakistan were missing, let's look at trends in the World Cup. You've had outright pace doing well. You had an O'Shane Thomas bowling consistently over 140, 145 doing well. Andre Russell, who was big and quick and hit the deck, he did well. I think that in modern day cricket, you need to be bowling really fast, above 140, and they removed Junaid Khan, who was dibbly-dobbly in 130, 135. They removed a Fahim Ashraf, who was again in the same speed, and who did they bring in? They brought in a Wahab Riaz, who consistently hit 140, 145. They brought in an Ahmed who can bowl 140 and swing the ball up front.
But they still have Hassan Ali, right?
Yes, Hassan Ali consistently has a good track record of picking up wickets in the middle overs. So you've got variety in that attack, you've got pace in that attack, and you've got a spinner who can turn it both ways. So I think they've covered all bases, and pace was the key. You saw Jos Buttler, and even Johnny Bairstow fending off. It was just that extra pace which did them in. But hey, funnily, you'll have to notice trends in this World Cup, right? People who would normally chase down 350 or 360 in other bilateral series are not even able to chase 330. And it's a big thing called World Cup pressure. And when the wickets are flat, people like Bangladesh go on and score 330, and South Africa couldn't chase them. Pakistan went to bat first, scored on 340, and England couldn't chase it. But was this the same trend in other bilateral series when there was less pressure? No. England came out all guns blazing and scored even 380, chased 380. But that's the difference. It was pressure. They brought in good pace bowlers who could hit 140, 145, and that spinner Shadab Khan, who could spin it both ways.
Well, if you look at yesterday, and I think one of the key observations I made was we talk about pace, right? We know Wahab, we know what Hassan Ali can do, and obviously Mohammad Amir had his impact as well. But let's not forget the contribution of the three spinners. They actually ended up bowling 20 overs and accounted for 4 wickets. right? And when you look at the Bangladesh game, which we'll talk about in a second, it was actually spin again that halted South Africa in the middle overs. So I think the question to you, Nuwan, is you've watched a lot of Asian countries play cricket.
Yes.
Is it going back to the way Asian teams do well? You know, bat first, put the runs on the board. We know, Ashwin, you talked about World Cup pressure. Anything north of 320, 330, you're getting into the territory where, again, if you don't get up at the start and you lose the wicket at the wrong time, you're going to be under pressure. But the one advantage that all of these Asian teams, Afghanistan included, is they've got quality spinners in their lineup. And how do you think that's going to be playing against some of these teams such as South Africa, England, Australia, who traditionally haven't been the greatest players at spin?
Yeah, look, it's going to be a bit of a challenge. And I find it interesting, given that a lot of these pitches in England are quite green, so they would be tailor-made for the seamers and the quicker blokes. But it is fantastic to see the spinners coming to their own. Yeah, look, it'll be tough because I find that when I was analysing the way Bairstow was playing, he wasn't really picking the leg spinners of Shadab Khan. You know, he'd stick his bat out there, but you'd see the ball constantly, you know, miss that edge. So look, I think it's going to play a huge role as this tournament goes on. It was fantastic to see Bangladesh defeat South Africa as well. That was a great win. But yeah, spin is going to play a huge factor. I think it's just a lot of the Australian English batters, they're very lead-footed, like they're very flat-footed when they come forward and things like that. And that's gonna, you know, that's where they're gonna get found out. And we saw that against South Africa. You know, if you look at the way, you know, guys like, for example, like you know, Markram, you know, I think he was dancing down the wicket to you know, to get into him, and straight away the middle pole is pegged back. So I think a lot of the sort of the more European, like Australia, New Zealand type teams, they've prepared well, but I think they need to do a little bit of homework on the spin.
Speaking of that aspect, I want to go to Ashwin actually because you know, you're someone that obviously has played a lot of cricket as well. What's the key to scoring runs against spin, and not only scoring runs but getting on top of the bowler?
I think people who've generally traditionally played spin well use the crease well. They either, you know, get right front or right back, and that's what players like a Michael Clarke or a Virat Kohli do well. They use the feet. I mean, they use the crease, the depth, the crease really well. You either play right up front where you can smother the spin, or you go right back and play with the spin. But Nav, another thing, you'll have to notice another trend. This World Cup has been a World Cup for the all-rounders so far.
Yes,
you've seen all of them. You've seen all of the all-rounders have stepped up. You saw Ben Stokes did it with the bat, did it with the ball. You know, brilliant catch. You got Shakib Al Hasan scored a brilliant 79. Wiley left arm spin, and yesterday Mohammad Hafiz scored runs with the bat, picked up the crucial wicket of Owen Morgan. So I think the top four teams with good all-rounders performing well have a really good chance. I think this has been a tournament for the all-rounders.
Yeah, I definitely agree.
No, go ahead, Nuwan.
Yeah, I was going to say for Australia as well. I think Glenn Maxwell, even people like Marcus Stoinis, maybe to a lesser extent, will come into play. If spin's going to be such a vital component, then look, I have no doubt that you might see a couple of quick wickets for Glenn Maxwell as well. And we know how destructive he is with the bat and in the field too. So it's exciting news for Australia, I think, as well, if we look at it from their perspective.
Yeah, absolutely. And we'll take a closer look at Australia very soon. But I want to talk about South Africa, Bangladesh next.
Yes.
This is a game that, again, you know, a lot of pundits called this completely wrong. They thought this was going to be a over for South Africa. When in fact, Bangladesh put probably, and I've seen a lot of cricket in my time, their most complete performance in a high-pressure environment. You know, scoring 330, batting first was not an easy task. Tamim Iqbal, who traditionally does well when Bangladesh wins matches, in fact failed and scored only 16. But it was actually the all-rounders, like you said, Ash, that stepped up. I mean, Shakib Al Hasan's innings of a 75 of 84 was pivotal, and then with the ball, very tight, got the wicket as well, 1 for 50. But more, you know, ensured that he kept things really wicket to wicket, right? Which is what his real strength is. Bangladesh, right? They have been part of many World Cups now, but haven't really come close apart from a few upsets in the 2007 tournament.
I will join in a second.
Yeah. So I guess my question to you, Nuwan, with this particular match, is what's going wrong for South Africa, right? Now playing matches. This seems to be going bad to worse. They've been hit with injury before the World Cup. Dale ruled out. Mungi Ngidi got injured in that match against Bangladesh. They now face themselves in a really tough situation. Usually they start well and they end up losing in the semi-finals. This time they're 2-0 down, having lost a big one against Bangladesh.
Yeah, it's, to me, I think South Africa just succumbed to the pressure. I was watching that game and they dropped like 3 catches as well, which was by their standards quite shocking. I think it was Russi van der Dussen. He dropped an absolute sitter off. I think it was Shakib Al Hassan, and then he got away to a good 75. So I think South Africa just collapsing under the pressure. And there was even another incident where I think Mushfiqur Rahim sort of glanced it, and it went between 2 fieldsmen, and either one could have got it, and they all just both sort of froze. So when I look at that, I just feel like South Africa, they just succumbed, like they just froze, like they just they sort of succumbed to the pressure. I think they themselves couldn't believe what was going on. I mean, of course, they've backed themselves to get that score, but then if you look at the dismissals, a lot of the time they were trying to force the issue against the spinners. I saw that a lot, especially Faf, the captain. Like he was just trying to, really dominate the spinners. Then he got done by a straight one from Mehdi Hassan. So I think that sort of urgency from South Africa backfired on them. If they sort of chilled out a bit, maybe played a couple of overs, just like even if they're going at 3-4 runs or over, right? They could have reversed that situation. But in that middle overs, they really became undone. I saw that they just collapsed. It was very uncharacteristic. So I think going forward into the next game, South Africa needs to calm down and just back themselves and know that they have a great side and know that they can come back from this.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, look, you raise a good point, but I think when I looked at the Bangladeshi batting innings, what I saw with South Africa was a bowling lineup that lacks balance. And lacks in a big way, right? Faf obviously talked about the ideal scenario where they could play four pace bowlers, right? Which is not going to happen now because Dale Steyn's not playing. Ngidi got injured very early. They're having to rely on guys like Morris, who's a medium, really, to sort of bowl those overs, and someone like Markram, 5 overs, him going at 7.6 and over is not really what would have been part of South Africa's actual game plan. But that's what they
I was surprised Markram getting a couple of overs there, but I don't know. I feel like the youngster, what's his name, Andile Feliqueira, I don't know. He didn't seem that threatening to me. Like I just felt like he was very up and down. I feel like he's the best
one they've got at the moment, right? Had a pretty off day, and at least he got 2 wickets, whereas Morris went and the spinners were ineffective.
Yeah, spinners are quite ineffective. But I just felt like Bangladesh held their nerve. Like if you look at they made 330 for 6, so they only lost 6 wickets in that score, which shows like they held on their own. But I think South Africa only have themselves to blame for this game. Like they could have won this game. It's not like this is out of their sort of ability.
I'm going to bring you back in here, and the question I'm going to ask is, JP Duminy, again, a very experienced player, right? Yeah. He was there playing for South Africa. He was dismissed for 45, but he was actually cut out in the 48th over, right? When the score was still sort of on par. And when he got out, the score was 287. And the question I'm going to pose to you is someone like him, JP Duminy, who's played in obviously a number of pressure games, wouldn't the onus have been on him to actually bat till the end? Because if he batted till the end, I think South Africa could have almost pulled this off.
Yeah, look, he's a class player. He averages close to 40 in ODI cricket. And I've seen him finish up games as well in the past. He's definitely a good finisher. Again, the pressure just got to South Africa. That whole chokers thing, you can see that it's affecting them.
Ashwin, I'm going to bring you in, mate.
Nav, I think I lost you guys when you guys were doing the analysis of the Bangladesh and the South Africa game. But that game turned in the last 5 overs. So in the last 4 overs of Bangladesh batting, they scored 54 runs. And Faf was left short-handed because Lungi Ngidi got injured, and he had to go to a Morris and a Peklakwayo, who were probably second-string death bowlers for them. South Africa lost that game not because of the batting. I think they batted pretty well, but South Africa lost that game in the last 4 overs they bowled. It's unacceptable for an international team to be conceding 54 runs in 24 balls against Bangladesh.
Yeah.
I mean, going back to Nab's question about JP Duminy, I have no problem with the way he batted. I think he lost wickets around him. He couldn't tee off. South Africa batted fine, but they didn't. The death bowling is where they lost it.
No, absolutely. I just think that someone like Duminy getting out at the time that he did, if he stayed till the end, I think they would have had a chance. But you're right, it wasn't about their batting. It was more how badly their bowling and fielding let them down.
That's what I'm saying. I mean, they lost. They dropped 3 catches as well.
Yeah, absolutely. So look, the reality is the reality. South Africa now lost 2 games in a row, and they face India tomorrow, which is the next game that we want to look at. A huge game coming up in Southampton. Ash, look, there's a few elements here. It's going to be India's first game of this World Cup. The BCCI, the Supreme Court, in fact, had mandated that the team gets a 15-day break between the IPL and any international, which the ICC have obviously gone and honoured, which is a reason why the fixtures have been reshuffled to accommodate that request. But having said that, they've done their paintballing sessions. They've gone out and toured the sites. They're ready to play some cricket. Ash, tell me what you feel about the matchup tomorrow.
That's the BCCI pulling its power. But look, I'm going to stick my neck out and call the game. I think South Africa are a chance. Rustiness plays a big role in sport. Not only this cricket, you saw it with Golden State. When they had a 10-day break, they came out and lost game 1 to Toronto. India haven't played a cricket game, I think, in the last week. They were rusty in the warm-up games. South Africa, having played 2 games already in that treasure, in the World Cup environment, if they had their complete 11 with Ngidi, Steyn, and Rabada, it could have been a really, really tight game. But I still back South Africa to pull an upset just because India are rusty.
So hang on a second. Let me understand this logic. You're saying that if South Africa have their full-strength side with Ngidi, Steyn and Rabada firing, India would actually have made this contest close. But you're saying because they're not playing, because India is rusty. I mean, am I understanding it correctly?
No, I mean it could have been a close game, but I still back South Africa to do well. I still back South Africa to win the game. Okay. If Amla is back and Steyn gets fit, I still back South Africa.
All right. Well, Amla's again under a bit of injury cloud. He got hit in the head in the last match, and due to 2 games ago, and due to precautionary reasons, sat out of the game against Bangladesh. No, India obviously playing their first game, going into as a number 2 ranked side. What are your thoughts on the matchup tomorrow? And
I think this should be a pretty clinical victory for India. I think if you look at the last 5 matches India have played against South Africa in ODI cricket, literally India's beaten them quite literally 6 times. It's all been like 5 straight victories, and they're all comfortable victories as well. This was back in 2018, of course, the start of 2018, but I think India will keep that momentum. I don't think the break's going to affect them. They're going to have their full strength side. They'll have, the likes of Kohli, Sharma, guys like Dhawan, Dhoni. This is the real deal India, and they're a very gelled unit. They seem very together. It would be very surprising to see India lose this one, and given how probably demoralized South Africa is probably feeling right now, I don't know if they can get back up from this. South Africa have historically been a team that once they're down, they stay down kind of thing. And this shows in the last couple of results. In the last ODI that India played against South Africa, India won by 8 wickets. They got South Africa all after 204.
But
And then
hey
before
guys, I'm looking forward to the Rabada versus Kohli contest.
Yeah,
Did you
that'll
guys,
be a good
did
one.
you guys read the tweet that Rabada sent out saying that Kohli was a bit immature?
Yeah, that's a bit of a that's a bit of a big call coming from Rabada.
And I read a pre-game interview that Lungi Ngidi had said that, when India had gone over to South Africa, they had beaten them, and South Africa didn't have their full team, and they're looking to extract revenge against India. So this contest is just not like a it's just not a normal game. It has an extra spice to it.
Yes.
And India being rusty, man, I mean, I hope my heart says India.
Yeah.
I hope India win, but South Africa are a tough.
I believe in the corner tiger philosophy of Imran Khan. I mean, Pakistan lost 4 games in the '92 World Cup and won the tournament, and no one gave.
And Faf has given his team a dressing down.
Absolutely. Look, I think there's one of two things going to happen here, and we'll understand really what this South African side is made up of after tomorrow's game, right? At this moment, when I look at two sides, there is more to lose for South Africa than for India, right? They've got another 9 matches in front of them, and if they have an off day tomorrow, sure, they have an off day, they can pick their pieces up, right? South Africa, if they lose tomorrow,
they need to win.
Diabolical situation where their exit is pretty much etched on the wall, right? So I feel just purely from a
emotional. Or like
the competitive juices flowing from that point of view. I feel South Africa have sort of more to lose tomorrow. But then from a match perspective, I don't agree with Ashwin's point. Rusty. I think a couple of the answers that they had prior to this tournament is MS Dhoni going to continue his IPL form? Is KL Rahul the answer for the number 4 slot? Is do they have the ability to post the totals and then obviously put a clinical performance on the field? I think some of those answers were addressed in the Bangladesh game, but more importantly, I think we can't really take too much from those warm-up matches, right? So I look at this game and I think, like as Ashwin said, it can go South Africa's way, but I agree with Norman. I think India on the form guide, it looks like they are the more settled side, and I think again looking at some of those key moments, it'll come how settled.
Another thing is that, look, the template has been set on how you beat the bigger teams. You bat first, place through 320, 330 on the board, and if they're good enough to chase it, then you put your hands up and say you couldn't do anything more. So it would be interesting to see South Africa bat first, put up a 300, and then see India if they can chase it down.
Well, we all know Virat Kohli's record chasing one-day cricket, so if we can pull that off, it'll be.
I think you're going to paint your face with the tricolour tomorrow, isn't it?
Well, I'm partial here, guys, but for the moment, let's shift our attention to a side that you said in another day that you made a big bold prediction that your men from the Caribbean, the West Indies. Champions of 1975 and the 1979 World Cup are going to pull one off, right? So let's talk specifically about one player, not Christopher Henry Gale, but Andre Russ. Right? Andre Russ, as he's called. He had a spectacular match against South Africa and West Indies. Against Pakistan. The West Indies obviously pulled that game off. Me through the impact that he can have in this tournament. He's obviously coming off a really successful IPL, and then generally where to go from here for the West Indies. They've done everything asked of them. They've ticked all the boxes. They must be high on confidence. Noah.
Oh, look, I think I'm going to call it again. I think they will win, and I think they're in good spirits right now, the Windies. Look. The matchup against Australia, that'll be a very tough one because obviously historically Australia is a team that doesn't back down, they don't collapse usually. And Andre Russell will have a very, very significant input in that game. He's a fantastic change bowler. He'll come in, he'll swing it around a bit. He's not easy to put away. He's a bit of a I wouldn't put him in the Jacques Kallis category, but he's certainly effective in that regards. But look, when I was looking at some of his tweets, and he seems like he's got a very cool head on his shoulders. He knows that he's like the pinch hitter, the guy that gets the quick runs, but he also informed his fans that this is ODI cricket, not T20. You got to bat smarter. You got to bat smarter, or you also get found out. So he has said this himself. So he's not getting carried away. There's still a challenge there. But the beauty of the Windies is that they bat to number 9. Okay, so I've been saying this all since the tournament started. It doesn't matter what you score against the Windies. Doesn't matter how bad their bowling is, or if they have an off day, they'll back whatever you set for them. So bring on Australia Windies. That'll be a great contest.
And it's a great segue there as well. So, Ashwin, I'm going to come to you. You obviously have different opinions on how strong you believe the West Indies bowling attack is, but more importantly, they've got a very, very important clash coming up Thursday night, Australia versus the West Indies. Australia made very short work of Afghanistan a couple of nights ago. This is a side that let's just cast our minds over the last 12 months, right? They were in complete disarray in South Africa after the events of the whole sandpaper incident, the saga that put away David Warner and Steve Smith. I was fortunate enough to be playing for the same cricket club as David Warner, the Randwick Petersham in Sydney, and I saw firsthand some of his batting efforts at a grade level here. And let me tell you, the guy was super determined to make a good impression on every outing that he had here. So it's not often that you have a test level player, forcibly having to play almost an entire season of park cricket. That's what happened. These guys obviously travelled around the world, played in T20 as well. Steve Smith scored 100 in the warm-up matches. Australia right now, with Mitchell Starc coming in together, look a very settled side. Ashwin, West Indies, Australia, what are your thoughts?
I think firstly, a lot of people are reading into West Indies' win against Pakistan. Look, let's all of us agree that the Achilles heel for West Indies is their bowling. And they did well against Pakistan, but how much of it was the actual skill? Was it just because of a 10:30 start on a fresh wicket?
I would say in that particular game, they had a predetermined plan to bowl short the Pakistan batsmen, and they executed it really, really well. I came down.
I disagree. The plan wasn't to bowl short. I think Andre Russell changed the game around. If you saw the first 4-5 overs, Jason Holder started off trying to swing the ball. And then when Andre Russell came down, he was the one who banged in a couple shots.
It was totally changed the game. Right?
Look, I really do not take the concept that it was a planned bouncer barrage, but it was something that happened, and Pakistan just played into it. And look, Australia, with their batting lineup and with their bowling lineup, they're going to be too powerful for the West Indies. Look, I didn't rate the West Indies as a top 4 contender before the tournament started. Even after the first game, I don't rate them as top 4 contenders, because to reach the top 4, you need to be consistent and the bowling attack needs to be good, because on flat pitches, the batting is going to cancel itself out. And I don't agree with no one saying West Indies can chase anything. If England back first in 450, hell no, West Indies are not going to chase.
I don't even so let me go back to Nuwan here, because an interesting point that Dre Russ made was the template he believes for success in his tournament for the West Indies is for them to bat first and actually score in excess or close to 400 runs every game, and then back their bowlers to come good based on a very formidable total with a bat. So I think it's more setting a total than chasing. Nuwan, what are your thoughts? Is that the game plan for the Windies to do well?
Well, look, the bowling is their weak link. They don't have a recognised spinner, and we've seen how effective spin has been in this World Cup so far. So spin will be the Achilles heel. They don't have a good spinner. Actually, that's unrated. But they're just from a camaraderie perspective, there is something about the Windies that I just think when push comes to shove, the Windies always deliver. It's phenomenal. Like if it was West Indies Bangladesh, right? In that crunch moment, the Windies would have taken it. They have this phenomenal ability to turn things around. I genuinely believe that.
No, I think no one is forgetting Bangladesh chased down 220 23 overs against the same West Indies attack.
But let's also not forget, guys. This is so Chris Gayle, right? Is as someone his last 5 ODIs, I believe, scored about 497 odd runs, right? Before against Pakistan, right? He scored a 50 in that match as well. Look, they've got a couple of players that are in red hot form. They did well against England in home conditions a couple of months ago. Let's not forget as well. I think the West Indies are dark horses, personally, at this stage. They've got off to a good start. Whether they can hold it in crunch situations, whether their inadequacies when it comes to spin bowling, and also how they deal in a pressure situation on a seaming wicket where their top order fails, where they can kind of, come up against those challenges remains to be seen. But I think they've got off to a good start, and one that I guess will definitely the fans or cricket in that part of the world will benefit from. A team that I want to move on very quickly to is Sri Lanka. So Sri Lanka guys are actually batting at the moment live against Afghanistan. The score is now 144 for 1 after 21 overs. They've got off to a really rapid start against Afghanistan. They've changed the batting around a little bit with actually Dimuth Karunaratne, the captain, opening with Kusal Perera as opposed to Lahiri Tiramani, and the opening stand of 92, quite good for Sri Lanka. But this is a game that they absolutely must win after having really had a thumping loss to New Zealand a few days ago. Nuwan, you're a close follower of Sri Lankan cricket. We talk about the decline of this side. What can they do to avert this? And I guess got off to the right foot when the right start in this match time.
Look, Sri Lanka had a shocker start, and there was a lot of questions surrounding their side, and we saw them fail dismally against New Zealand. Look, the Sri Lanka team is, there's a lot of issues with them right now, but they're a side that, look, they're limited in their ability, but when they rally together, they have this, again, it's like the West Indies, they have an uncanny ability to deliver. If we look at that New Zealand-Sri Lanka game, Sri Lanka just collapsed. Like, they just literally, there was no energy in the batting. Matthews made like a 8-ball duck. And only Dimuth Karunaratne batted throughout for the whole, I think he was like not out in the end. So I read some of the tweets after. Malinga was pretty upset. Malinga was like, I hope Sri Lanka feels the shame of losing this game. Because, this is a nation that was once a force, a powerhouse in cricket. The decline has come because of politics. It's come about because of they've had the retirements of 2 of their all-time greatest batsmen. It's really weighed in on Sri Lanka, but obviously now, I mean, they're 144 for 2 against Afghanistan, which is fantastic, of course. But Sri Lanka just need to find something within their side and sort of click. Their bowling isn't the best. I think it's spearheaded by Malinga, but he's a fading force. Sri Lanka, they're one of the sides where like you can't really say which aspect, batting, bowling, or fielding, is going to lift them through. I think it's going to have to be a collective effort for them. That's my thoughts on the team as it stands.
Ashwin, I'm going to go to you. Obviously, we speak a lot about the former superstars of Sri Lankan cricket, Kumar Sangakkara and Mahela Jayawardene, and then if you go back a few years earlier, we've got Murali and Aravinda De Silva and all the the legends of yesterday. But is Kusal Perera the answer to moving out from that phase and looking onto a new generation of players that can create their own stories and legacies for themselves? What's your thoughts on Sri Lankan cricket at the moment, and from what you've seen in the game right now against Afghanistan? Is that the chance for redemption?
Before I answer that about Sri Lanka, I'd just like to make a quick point about the West Indies. And people talk about their batting being really powerful. A perfect example of batting not winning you tournaments is RCB. You had a Virat Kohli, you had a Chris Gayle, you had an AB de Villiers, you had tons of batting, and they still couldn't win the trophy in 10 years. And the same thing goes with the West Indies. I mean, it's an old age saying, batting wins you games, but bowling wins you premierships. And that's where I think West Indies will get found out. But going back to the question about Sri Lankan cricket, I mean, I told you before on another day, Nav, that it was not all gloom for Sri Lanka. If you have a look at their first 4 fixtures, they could have been 4-0 up. But a perfect example of this is their Asian neighbors, Pakistan. They can brush the first defeat under the carpet, go out there and have some momentum against Afghanistan. The next 2 games for them are Pakistan and Bangladesh. I think they're familiar opponents. It's not all gloom for Sri Lanka, and Sri Lanka traditionally have done well in World Cup tournaments. And I read something that the batting coach of Sri Lanka mentioned this morning, and he said we need a batsman who can go out there and bat 100 balls. He never mentioned about anyone scoring quick fire hundreds in about 60 balls, but he told, we need a batsman who can go out there and just bat 100 balls. And that's where they've brought in Dimuth Karunaratne, who lends them stability in the top of the order. They sort of can play around him. And Nav, you mentioned Kusal Perera. I think he's the X factor in their batting lineup. I think he single-handedly won them a test match against South Africa when he carted Dale Steyn, Kagiso Rabada all over the park. And this guy, on good wickets, on flat wickets, with only 2 fielders outside the circle, this guy is key. I mean, and if Sri Lanka get off to a good start, that's when your Kusal Mendises, that's when your Angelo Matthews, that's when your Thisara Pereiras come into the game. So this guy is I think is the linchpin. Kusal Janit Perera, X factor for Sri Lanka, and watch out for it.
Yeah, if I can just say quickly as well, interesting story about Kusal. Kusal's boyhood hero was Sanath Jayasuriya, and Kusal Perera is actually he's right-handed, but he loved Sanath so much that he taught himself to bat left-handed. And if you watch the way Kusal Perera bats, literally all these shots come out of the Sanath Jayasuriya playbook. He's quite an interesting story there. I'm going to have to disagree with you, Ashran. Even though I'm a Sri Lankan, I think Sri Lanka will not be able to pull off a Pakistan, primarily because their bowling is significantly much weaker, okay? They've got guys like Isuru Udana, I think, who last played at ODI back in 2000. I think 2000. Well, a while ago. This guy averages 80 as a bowler in ODI cricket. Guys like Suranga Lakmal, they're all military medium bowlers. Even Thisara Perera, and even in this current game against Afghanistan, Sri Lanka don't have a recognized spinner. Their spin is gonna come from Danan De Silva, who is a part-timer at best. Bowling is Sri Lanka's real weak link. I don't see this bowling attack getting sides out for under 300 or under 280.
Nuwan, I have a question for you. I mean, now that you've stressed on the bowling winning you games, do you think Sri Lanka has a better bowling attack than the West Indies?
Well, look, I don't think so. I think the West Indies were slightly better. I
agree with Nuwan, and I'll tell you the reason why. There's 2 things. You talked about pace early on in the piece, Ash, right, and how important that's going to be in English conditions, right?
Yeah, Sri Lanka don't have.
West Indies have got a couple of bowlers that can bowl north of 140 clicks.
Yeah, Sri Lanka don't have that.
O'Shane Thomas, we saw. I think Dre Russ had one at 147 the other day. So. And Holder is a stable bowler that is faster than military medium, right? Which Sri Lanka has a few of.
Jason Holder bowls 130 at best. But look, I mean, I agree they're short-handed on the bowling. But with experience, with the Lasith Malinga, who can still add value to that team. And I think Sri Lanka have made a good change in bringing in Nuwan Pradeep.
Yeah.
He's the one who gets it to seem a little off the deck, and against teams like Afghanistan who haven't seem that well, I think I really don't see why they shouldn't start favourites against Afghanistan at least.
Well, let's talk about Afghanistan very quickly, Nuwan. What did you think about their performance against Australia? For me, what I saw was a team that got pressurized a little bit against Australia, and perhaps didn't rise to the occasion as we would have thought. I mean, Mohammad Shahzad, early on the piece, I was really looking at the prospect of him taking on the Australian bowler, but he got dismissed by Mitchell Starc, and he got beaten for pace. There was no other reason there. The middle order actually got together a few partnerships and scored some runs, but I was very disappointed that they only ended up with just a few runs above 200. I thought really, anything sort of north of 250, 270 would have given the spinners something to bowl at. And then obviously when they ended up bowling, Rashid Khan and Mujib, well, look, they obviously bowled too many short balls, and Australia, cantered home to victory.
Yeah.
What does Afghanistan need to do, and what did you make of Australia's clinical performance?
Yeah, Australia fantastic. Their bowlers are primed, looking good. Pat Cummins bowled amazingly, generating excellent pace off the deck. Stark was good as well. For Afghanistan, it was just for me, it was just another typical minnow performance, really. Like, I mean, to get above 200 against a top nation is still a great effort in itself. And there were glimpses of Afghanistan batting with a bit of bit of application, but again, it was just to me that I watched that game, and it was just a matter of one team just clearly better than another. That's the way I can put it down to. One guy I really like was Ramat Shah and Najibullah Zadran. They showed a bit of application in the sense that they hung around a bit, and I think that's what Afghanistan needed to do. They didn't really, and Australia's bowling is fantastic. Very clinical, very very sort of effective. I think the main strike bowlers, they were all under 5 runs and over. So in terms of economy, so it was just a very clinical performance. I don't think anything really stood out for me per se, apart from the two batsmen for Afghanistan. And from Australia's perspective, Finch, Warner, they were really just feasting on some pretty average bowling as well. Like, again, even Australia will know that this is not like, they're suddenly a great team now. Like, even they know that this is, they're just warming up. So, but good effort to Afghanistan for getting above 200. They were definitely competitive in patches, but ultimately there was a very slim chance that they would topple Australia.
Yeah, good thoughts there, and I think it really talks about the importance of consistency and really lasting the 400 overs in this game. Ashwin, going to you, right? A couple of points in that game that were interesting to me. Obviously, one of Adam Zampa. We spoke a little bit about him and the importance of having a spinner in your side. He got taken to the cleaners a little bit in the middle stages of that innings, and if there was one Australian bowler that perhaps wasn't at their A game against Afghanistan, it was Adam Zampa. He did end up taking some wickets, but went the distance. And so the question then comes: when would you play Nathan Lyon if given an opportunity, or would you still stick with Zampa? And then the second question that I want to ask about the Australian performance was David Warner. Obviously, the innings that he played was very different to what he traditionally does. He obviously comes out playing lots of shots, likes to get on top of the bowling, but he played a subdued kind of innings. And was that an innings because he wanted to prove to everyone that, he just wants to end up with a not out and see Australia through? I mean, bat the innings, or was it a case where, as Finch perhaps alluded to post-match, that he was genuinely finding it hard to get his timing right? Your thoughts?
Before that, just a quick word on Afghanistan. Look, I mean, the entire world knows that the Afghanistan bowling is a formidable one, especially the spinners with Rashid Khan, with Mohammad Nabi and Mujib. All right, that's a constant. But a lot of people seem to be missing is their importance of Shehzad and Hazratullah Zazai on top of the order. All right, Afghanistan, for them to do well, will need to consistently put up scores of above 250 and 260. And when are they best suited to do that? When Shehzad and Hazratullah Zazai tee off in the first 10. And that's when your Hajmatullah Shahidi, your Rahmat Shah can build on that. And then you have a late order flourish from Muhammad Nabi and Rashid Khan. Now, the importance of Shehzad and Hazratullah Zazai should not be undermined in that Afghanistan team. Nav, coming back to your questions about Adam Zampa and David Warner. Look, for me, Adam Zampa is number one. All right. I mean, would you as a captain rather have 10 overs, none for 60, or would you rather have 10 overs, 70 for 3? I would always have 10 overs, 70 for 3, because wickets helps you in building the game for you.
Well, I mean, his role in that game was as an attacking spin option, right? And
Absolutely, absolutely. And Nathan Lyon.
Just a quick one. It's so good that you mentioned wickets there, Ashwin, because Sri Lanka is currently 149 for 5, I think. 149 for 5 after they were 122 for 1. So
well, let's talk through that in just a moment. I get you to analyze that very quickly because we're just seeing development in that game, which is a discussion point. But Ashwin, on that, I think the point I'm trying to raise is, obviously, Nathan Lyon has come in with some very good form, but obviously Zampa has been the preferred spinner. When, if any, would be the reason that Australia would look at Lyon also coming into the fold here?
I will play Nathan Lyon against West Indies with a lot of left-handers. I would go with the trend of having a spinner start with the new ball and bowl Nathan Lyon to Chris Gayle and Evan Lewis.
Well, I mean, we've seen Ravi Ashwin's success against Gale, so and obviously he bowls well against Warner as well.
Lend credit to the point. I think Nathan Lyon plays for me when the opposition has a lot of left-handers in them.
Yeah, makes sense. So then the second question is about David Warner and how his the game was. Is that him just building into the World Cup, or he sort of just wants to get some runs and get some confidence behind his belt?
I think you hit the nail on the head. He's just building into the World Cup. I mean, a video that Ricky Ponting had given an interview after the game, and he was asked about David Warner's scoring rate. And he admitted that David Warner was rusty. But kudos to him for sticking it out, because come the big games against England, come the big games against India, South Africa, New Zealand, they need a David Warner fully firing. Yeah. And it was good on him to take some time, knowing that they were chasing only about 200, 210. And, he could sort of play himself in. I think, well done.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, thanks for your insights there, Ash. I want to go very quickly to Nuwan. We don't have too many minutes left in the show or before we wrap up, but some developments here as far as the Sri Lanka-Afghanistan game is concerned. We were just talking moments ago about the rollicking start that they got to, but now they're reduced to 150 for 5. Nuwan.
Yeah. Look, this is again going back to Ashwin's brilliant point about Afghan bowling. Mohammad Nabi's just taken 3 wickets in the space of like less than 2 overs. It's quite. This is what always happens to Lanka. They'll go up to a good start, then quick wickets will happen. And at this point in time, given that the new batter is Thisara Perera, partnering with Kusal Perera, look, Sri Lanka is this has been a recurring theme for Sri Lanka. These collapses. The batting has no backbone. And
there's a key moment of the game over here because I think it's going to make for some glaring reading. Angelo Matthews has been dismissed for a duck yet again.
Oh yeah. There's definitely some issues between Matthews and the board as well. Fitness issues as well. He's like, this guy has potential to win games for Lanka single-handedly. I still remember 2010 when he came here in Melbourne, and it was called Miracle Melbourne because Sri Lanka was 189 for 8. Chasing 240 by Australia, and Matthews did that. This guy can do stuff like that, but something mentally is not right. If you look at that ball, actually, he was like in nowhere. His feet were nowhere. He just hung the bat out to dry, got the edge straight to slip. There's something mentally not right with Matthews right now.
I still don't think it's all gloom for Sri Lanka. If you look at their run rate, I think it's about 6.4 or 6.3.
Yeah.
All they need is to just bat out the remaining overs, get to a score of 300, and let's see if Afghanistan chase 300, you put your hand up and say fair enough.
Yeah.
Well, the question is Sri Lanka going to get to 300? That's the more pertinent question. They've lost half the side and they're only 150, right? So yes, they can. If they bat the full 50 overs, they're on track to 300.
Look, I'm looking at it right now. They need Kusal Perera to stick around. They'll get 300 if Kusal Perera sticks around. He's currently 70 of 59 balls, so he's in red hot form. But Thisara Perera is like the last recognized batsman. I wouldn't even call him a batsman, to be honest. He's more of a bowling all rounder, but after Thisara Perera, Sri Lanka has a very weak and flimsy tail.
You know who I'm backing to score runs tonight? the guy who you guys told was useless, Isru Udana.
Isru Udana, oh yeah.
Isrudan, I mean, in the ODIs against South Africa, I remember him scoring a quick fire 80 or 90, and he absolutely murdered Rabada one game.
Yeah,
he does have the ability. But look, I think what we're going to see in this World Cup, a lot of the play is going to be based on how the pitch plays out.
Yeah.
If the pitch is going to be flat, I feel the Asian teams are going to come into the play where it's going to be a very simple formula of putting runs on the board, getting your spinners through the middle overs, and really suffocating the batting. If we see some spicy wickets, I certainly feel Australia and New Zealand will come into the play. They've both got players that have the ability to exploit those conditions. West Indies I will put into that pack because I believe they do have the bowlers to exploit it, but can they do it consistently is a question.
Yeah.
Someone like Gabriel and Roach did not play those games against Pakistan, but yet I actually felt that the bowling lineup in that particular game wasn't very strong. We talked about it offline, Ash. They had Carlos Braithwaite and Andre Russell playing in the same match and had to rely on O'Shane Thomas and Jason Alder to pick up wickets, which is atypical to what their preferred bowling lineup would be. Gabriel's obviously coming off an injury. So I think I would back West Indies in that situation. Someone like Pakistan on a green top wicket, spinning around. Yeah. Again, I would not be a man to bet against Pakistan when you have Mohammad Amir and Wahab is fired up. So definitely the conditions will suit them. India, well, look, Jasprit Bumrah and Bhuvneshwar Kumar are obviously right up there. And they've proven their capability over the last couple of years. But I generally feel that this World Cup is going to be determined by what sort of pitch we encounter. And we've seen some variability in the first couple of games already. But as it stands right now, because we've only got another 3 minutes on the show, guys, the West Indies are number one on the points table, even though there's only been one match played. But they have a run rate of positive 5.8, which is fantastic. New Zealand are number two. Again, with a very healthy run rate of 5.7. Australia round up number 3, and England, the firm favourites in this tournament, perhaps not after yesterday's performance, make up the top 4. As we mentioned at the top of the show, India are yet to open their World Cup account, so that could be very interesting. South Africa have an opportunity to either lose their first 3 games in a row, which would put themselves in an embarrassing situation, or find themselves, giving some scares to the Board of Control of Cricket, who obviously will want India to play as many games, because then obviously it's money for the board and it's viewership for the fans. So, final thoughts, Nuwan, on today's matches and also a few coming up. We've got Windy Australia on Thursday, and obviously India, South Africa, and then closing comments from you, Ash, and then it's time to wrap this up.
Well, I'll be very brief. I think this week's going to be a very exciting week of World Cup cricket. Don't forget, there's also Sri Lanka, Pakistan coming up as well. So heaps of exciting cricket to look forward to. I feel like there'll be a few more upsets coming this week. I genuinely feel that. I think because we are seeing upsets already, it's going to give a lot of the lesser teams a bit of confidence and a bit of belief that they can topple the likes of an Australia, an India, or an England. So yeah, I'm excited. I think this World Cup is gonna get very, very interesting.
Ashwin, final comments from you tonight?
On today's game, I still back Sri Lanka to put up at least 250 on the board and go out there and defend it. Sorry?
For Sri Lanka's sake, they have to win.
Yeah.
For my sake, otherwise I'd look like an idiot predicting a Sri Lanka win tonight. And look, I will still keep my top 4 the way it is before the tournament started. I would still back England, Australia, India, and the Mercurial Pakistan to be my 4 semi-finalists. And Australia are going to beat the daylights out of West Indies. I really hope that happens.
Well, this is the reason why we have such a colourful debate. I'd like to thank both Nuwan and Ashwin for being part of our first World Cup cricket show. I hope you've all had fun tuning in as much as we have, sharing some insights with you. We've got a cracking game on live at the moment, Afghanistan versus Sri Lanka. It could potentially be another upset. We've had 2 games in a row that's lived up, or we're slowly starting to see the World Cup live up to the hype and the expectations from millions of viewers around the world. Signing off tonight, it's Nav here, founder of Infinity Cricket. Thank you again, and we look forward to joining or sharing some more insights with you next week. Thank you and good night.
Thank you. Thanks a lot.